Now that we've seen how muscle contractions occur, think back to picking up your pencil and your keyboard. Depending on what you're doing, you can use a different amount of muscle contraction. For example, you had to use greater muscle contractions to pick up the keyboard than to pick up the pencil. But at the cellular level, the contraction of a single muscle fiber is all or nothing. It either contracts or it doesn't. So how do we control a whole muscle contraction? The length and strength of whole muscle contractions are regulated. The frequency of signals from the motor neuron regulates both the length and strength of a whole muscle contraction. A single signal will cause muscle tension for only 100 milliseconds or less. If another signal arrives before the first response finishes, the signals are added together, and the tension is stronger and lasts longer. Motor nerve signals usually come in an overlapping series which all blur into one sustained contraction called tetanus. Another way the strength of a whole muscle contraction is controlled is by the organization of muscle cells into functional units called motor units. Each muscle cell is controlled by a single motor neuron, but each motor neuron branches to control many muscle cells at the same time. A group of muscle cells controlled by a motor neuron is a motor unit. Some motor units contain more muscle cells than others, so different levels of muscle tension occur when different motor units contract. The strength of the muscle tension is controlled by which and how many motor units contract. In addition to the frequency of nerve signals, the length of whole muscle contraction is controlled by how long calcium ions are present. This is because the presence of calcium ions is what regulates the binding of myosin to actin. Fast muscle fibers contract only for a short period of time. They are used for short, powerful contractions like sprinting. Slow muscle fibers contract for a longer period of time and are used, for example, to maintain good posture. Slow muscle fibers have less sarcoplasmic reticulum, so the calcium released to cause the contraction is not reabsorbed as quickly, and the contraction lasts longer. Let's see how well you understand the regulation of muscle contraction. Match the mechanism of regulation with what aspect of muscle contraction it affects. Click Submit to see if you're correct. That's correct. Sorry, that's not quite right. The presence of calcium ions controls whether or not a muscle contraction occurs. Which and how many motor units contract control only the strength of the contraction. The amount of sarcoplasmic reticulum controls how long calcium ions are present, and therefore controls only the length of contraction. Since signals from motor neurons can add together to give a longer and stronger response, the frequency of nerve signals controls both the strength and the length of contraction.